Constitutional Court saying that the Electoral Commission can reopen the candidate registration process. How do other parties feel about it? Ashley Sauls the first is from the Patriotic Alliance. Michael Beaumont is the National Chair of Action SA. They both join us. Now, gentlemen, thank you for your time today. Ashley, do you think the court made the right decision?
Yes, most definitely. We feel that in light of the fact that we've got to ensure that IEC remains independent, and that we, of course, see the Constitutional Court as ensuring that such independence is upheld. Of course, we are not ruling out the possibilities that the DA was trying to put out there, but nevertheless, we want to believe that the IEC is acting independently and is acting within the ambit of the law to ensure free and fair elections. So we welcome the decision because we are ready to go, and we want the ANC to be as strong as ever so that when we are victorious, there's no excuses.
Well, actually, I was going to ask, you're actually looking forward to going against their candidates, because now you are going to go against their candidates.
Most definitely we are, Stephen. And the reason why, if you remind me of the biblical story of we view ourselves as a 7-year-old political David going against a 109-year-old political champion. And we know how that story ended.
We'll come to Nelson Mandela Bay in a moment, Ashley. Michael Beaumont, good afternoon to you. So the elections are now going to go ahead with the ANC. Do you believe the Constitutional Court has made the right decision?
You know, I think they have, Stephen, in as much as they obviously adjudicated the case as presented in the papers. I do think, Stephen, it has opened up a very interesting question, because if I read the judgment correctly, and I must admit there's been limited time to do so, what the judgment has indicated is that the IEC is entitled to use Section 11.2 of the Municipal Electoral Act to change the timetable. What it didn't deal with is whether the IEC in doing so has met the legal threshold, that the reason for the change requires free and fair elections. In other words, that change is necessary for free and fair elections. And I think that is a part of the case that hasn't yet been heard. But I think, to be dead honest with you, Stephen, you know, we've been following events closely, but you know, our interest is in campaigning and getting our message to the people of South Africa, more than it is to try and exclude a party from competing in these elections through the courts.
So you're looking forward to going against all of the ANC's candidates. It makes it a better election.
Well, I mean, whether it does or doesn't, the point is that we will have to contest against whichever candidates are standing. And the reality we know is that we must win elections by selling a message that is compelling to the South African people, rather than one that is about removing another party.
I'm going to ask both of you, if I may, about part of your party platform. Ashley, from the Patriotic Alliance, I mentioned Nelson Mandela Bay. You started with a biblical quote. Your party, in a way, became famous through Nelson Mandela Bay because you had 2 seats there, and that, to an extent, was the balance of power. It's obviously a lot more complicated than all of that. I'm oversimplifying it. What do you believe your party's done for voters in your 7 years?
Well, Stephen, I didn't hear the last part of that question.
What do you believe your party's done for voters in your 7 years?
Well, even though we are being a very small and a very minority party, but as kingmakers in Nelson Mandela Bay, whenever there is service delivery issues, we have been decisive around ensuring that if anybody who's governing within Nelson Mandela Bay, and we know that that happened with the DA, it happened with the ANC as well, that the way we've used our minority seat is to ensure that we hold the governing party in the municipality accountable to ensure that service delivery is provided. And in events that that doesn't happen, we act decisively, like we did with the DA and with the ANC respectively on that side. And so just like now, we are promising a government of truth and transparency, because that is the most rare commodity in the political climate right now. Apart, of course, from our focus in bringing God back into schools, ensuring that undocumented immigrants goes home, and then, of course, transparent service and real delivery, especially in my case for the city of Johannesburg.
I mean, you say that, Ashley, but let's just have a look at just one incident in Nelson Mandela Bay when you did hear the balance of power. You say that your party is decisive around service delivery issues. In just one 24-hour period during a debate around the budget in Nelson Mandela Bay, when Mongameli Bobani, he's now passed on, when he was the mayor, your leader in that council promised first first claimed that he would not vote for the budget because he had received death threats. Then he failed to vote in favour of a budget. Then Bobani offered him a position as member of the mayoral committee, which he accepted, and then voted in favour of a budget. I mean, how's that decisive?
Well, what you will, of course, appreciate is that when you are a minority party, if you're going to have to make decisions, it's bartering behind closed doors. And that's what usually the people are not shown on the outside. And then when you barter and you ensure you're bartering for the benefit of the masses, and you then depend on the integrity of those that you barter with, when you then come out and those that you believed in terms of their integrity doesn't show that and acts in bad faith, and then in the moment you have to then make a call that ensures that you show you will not stand for a lack of integrity and that you will put the needs of the people first. And this is what happens in this case, and that's the focus of the PA. But thankfully, this time around, after the 1st of November, we will not have to barter, but we will take the majority seats in municipalities across the country.
Michael, Beaumont's Action SA, as I understand what your leader, Herman Mashaba, has said many times, is that your party is prepared to be in a coalition with any party but for the ANC. It seems to me that the ANC is the most likely party to have the highest number of seats in most municipalities. Do you think you're going to find many opportunities to join coalitions?
Yes, we do, Stephen. And I think the one thing we must be clear on is that you can't fix the problem by partnering with the problem. And if you accept the idea that failed governance on the part of the ANC is a major part of why we are where we are as a country right now, it would make no sense that you could fight corruption while in coalition with the ANC when in fact the people who you are investigating and acting against for corruption are in fact from the ANC. So it's that kind of principle that you have to enter into coalition thought processes around, because it can't be coalition at all costs. It can't be we're going to be in coalition quite simply just to make sure we're in government. It has to be a people-centric reason for why coalitions can exist. But yes, to answer your question, Stephen, I do think that these elections are going to produce the environment for coalitions. I think the question is whether or not they can produce the environment for more stable coalitions that depend on fewer parties going forward.
I'm going to put this question to both of you. Ashley first, if I may. It seems to me that there's going to be a lot of screaming and shouting at the Electoral Commission. Everyone's going to blame the IEC. I don't know, because the sun's not the right shade of blue or something. Maybe that's the wrong choice of colour to make. But Ashley, do you believe that the outcome of these elections will be legitimate?
Well, let me first say that the PA is the right color green. So if you have referred to the color green, then I'm hoping that you're referring to the PA. Yes, there will be a lot of things that will be happening, but as I said, as the PA, we are excited. We are ready for battle, and we are just hoping, and we are, like we said, in terms of the decision of the Constitutional Court, to us, we believe in the integrity of our Constitution. We believe in the independence of the IEC, and we are definitely full of faith that the IEC will ensure free and fair elections, and we will just do our part to ensure a government of truth and transparency come post-November 1.
Michael, your party also uses the colour green, although a slightly different shade. Do you believe that the outcome will be legitimate?
Well, I think it's always important to rely on more than colours in winning votes from South Africans, Stephen. But, you know, I think the point here is that there's a real concern, and we must never, ever project that an election is going to be a problem before there's an election, because that's irresponsible. But there is a warning that has taken place in our country across this weekend, because in previous elections, the voters' roll has grown by 1.2 million plus voters between local government elections. And what has actually taken place after this registration weekend is a net decrease in our voters' roll. And part of the reason why this is happening, Stephen, is that voters simply do not know what measures the IEC is taking to keep them safe when they go to register or to vote. And there's a major challenge in the sense that 6 weeks from now, an election will take place, and it's very much in the ambit between the IEC and political parties to convince people that the measures being taken are safe and people can vote. If that doesn't happen, Stephen, it's very concerning, because we could have an election feasibly with a very low voter turnout, and we don't want to have a situation where the credibility of an outcome is being brought into question by how legitimate it was as a process to be participated in.
Michael Beaumont, National Chair of Action SA. Ashley Sauls the first from the Patriotic Alliance. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed.